Barbara is a high school history teacher and she lives alone with her pussycat. She is not the favorite teacher and even her co-workers don't really like her. Weirdly, I can relate. And the only friend that she had in this school resigned a few years back. One day, at the teachers' meeting, a new recruit comes in. A beautiful hot art teacher by the name of Sheba. Barbara instantly gets attracted to her and wants to be her friend, quote unquote, so maybe they can live, quote unquote, together. Barbara's eyes follow Sheba all day and she looks for a chance to talk, and even when a boy named Steven takes out his shirt, Barbara tells him to wear it. No wonder no one likes you, Barbara. Loosen up. The next day, Steven gets into a fight with one of the students and Barbara sees Sheba there. She goes in and stops the fight and sends the students out, then she calls Sheba to go with her. Barbara talks to Steven and asks him why did they fight, and Steven says that the other guy called Sheba a whore and that's why he started to fight. Barbara makes the boy to apologize and send them away. Sheba gets happy and thanks Barbara, and we see a devilish smile on her face. After school, Barbara invites Sheba for a cup of coffee and she accepts. Barbara is so excited, but while they are going, a third wheel joins in and Barbara's smile turns to dust. Damn these third wheels. They go shopping and after they're done, Sheba invites Barbara to her house for lunch. Barbara gets horny and accepts, and before going there, she makes sure that she looks good. She buys a bouquet of flowers and knocks on the door. An elderly gentleman who sounds a lot like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean opens the door and introduces himself as Sheba's husband. Sheba and Richard, her husband, they have two children, a teenage girl, Polly, and a boy who has Down syndrome. Barbara is surprised to see Sheba's family and she sits around, judging them like a professional a-hole, and eats lunch. After lunch, she talks to Sheba alone and Sheba must feel really secure with her because she tells her her whole life story. For example, she says that for the past 10 years, she had to look after her son, and now that she could finally send him to a school for special children, she found the time to teach art. Barbara talks to her and listens to her carefully, and when she returns home, like a usual psychopath, she writes down what Sheba told her in a notebook. Days go by and Christmas is around the corner. There is a party in this school and Barbara is saving a seat for Sheba next to her, but Sheba does not show up. After a while, she gets worried and goes to find her. And then it happens. She sees Sheba having sex with Steven in one of the classes. She is shocked as hell. The next day, she calls Sheba and asks to meet her and says that she knows about her and Steven. She wants to hear what happened from Sheba herself. Sheba says that the moment she stepped foot in the school, Steven had his eyes on her, and even when he scored that goal, he took off his shirt for Sheba. She also says that after a few days, he went to her room and she realized that he is a talented painter and asked her to teach her. Steven insisted and went to her office 2 weeks in a row, and finally, she gave up and agreed to teach him. Sheba continues and says that one day he showed her a portrait of herself and then asked her to touch him. Even though she refused and wanted to get back home, Steven stood in front of her for Sheba to pleasure him. Barbara asks, why didn't Sheba stop him at that point? I did. I said I wouldn't teach him anymore, but he kept coming back, Sheba says. He kept on showing up on my way until one day he said that his father beats him up and can't talk to his sick mother about it. So I talked to him and at the end, he held my face in his hands and said I was very beautiful. Then I felt something that I haven't felt for years, and I was aroused. Then we see that Steven gave Sheba a note and told her to meet him at 8 and gave an address. Sheba thinks to herself that she was a faithful wife to her husband and took care of her special child for 10 years, so why not have herself some fun? She goes to see Steven and they sleep together. Steven, God, moves. Sheba begs Barbara not to go public with this until after Christmas so she can be at peace with her family until then. Barbara says that if she promises that it won't happen again, she will keep this secret forever in her heart. At Christmas Day, Steven shows up at Shiba's house and gives her a gift, and Shiba pulls him aside and tells him that their story must end, but Steven says that he will be ruined if it happened. Poor Steven. Richard comes out and sees what's going on. When Steven sees him, he tells Shiba that he must be her dad, and Shiba gets upset. Steven, you devil. Shiba asks Steven to leave, but not only he doesn't leave, but also convinces Shiba to have sex with him that night. Barbara's pussycat is living his 9th life and he is going to go soon. So she goes to talk to Shiba to feel better, and while they're talking, Barbara sees a man jumping in Shiba's yard. Shiba says that it must be the neighbor's kid who came in after his ball, but her phone rings and Barbara picks it up and it is Steven. Booty call. Barbara gets mad and storms out, but gives Shiba another chance and tells Shiba that a boy that age cannot know what love is, and he will leave as soon as he gets tired. At night, Shiba goes to Steven's house and talks to his father, and the father is super cool and thanks her for teaching Steven in private. Then he helps Shiba to find Steven. Shiba knows that Steven lied about his father because this man is a complete peach and could have never hit anyone. While talking to Shiba, Steven finds out that Barbara knows about them and tells Shiba that the old lady is in love with Shiba, and Shiba must have felt it too, and that's why she told Barbara everything. Steven breaks Shiba's heart and tells her that he slept with her because he's hormonal. He has a point, you know. And the reason why Shiba agreed is that her husband is too old. Shiba gets naturally upset and leaves Steven. A few weeks later, Barbara takes her pussycat to a doctor so they can help it not to suffer anymore. Barbara returns home and buries her cat in her yard, and Bernard comes to visit her. He is one of the teachers in the schools, and he is a Spurs fan, so he is horny and asks Barbara to help him sleep with Shiba. Barbara is not in a good mood and tells Bernard that Shiba likes to sleep with much younger men than him. Then she tells Bernard about Steven. That night, Steven's mom goes to Shiba's house and beat the hell out of her for having relations with his son. Richard finds out what happens, and of course, he is furious. The next day, the police shows up and arrests Shiba for sexual abuse, and the news spreads all over the town. We find out that it was Steven who told his mother, and Bernard had nothing to do with it. And about Barbara, the principal has to throw someone under the bus, so he tells Barbara that she should have said something when she knew. After a few days, Shiba comes out and her husband forgives her. Barbara throws away the notebook that she wrote about Shiba and changes her school. In the last scene, Barbara hunts another beautiful young girl and talks to her. Hope you enjoyed the recap of Notes on a Scandal. Comment your thoughts and opinions down below. Thanks, goodbye.